All right, we are on air. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, and this is a meeting on Backdrop CMS active development tasks. Before we get into our tasks, we have an announcement from the PMC. We passed a vote, which is pretty exciting, to add security to our principles. So on our philosophy page, we have a section for principles. I'm going to throw a link in the meeting chat and into Gitter. And we decided to have sort of an open discussion about the wording around security. So I thought I would create an issue in the backdropcms.org queue where we can sort of revise and refine that. But since there's a bunch of people here at once, I just wanted to see if we had any preferences on like where in the list it should go. The list, I feel like, is sort of ordered by, I mean, not really priority, but like the order in which we ran into problems. But I don't know if that means we have to have security in a particular location, if the location is important, if we want to just add it to the end, since it's fun.
I think that we should change that list from being numbered to just being bullet points, so it doesn't imply sort of like a priority.
Yeah, I do think that having like a total count of them is useful. We could just put it in the heading though, where it says principles. We could say like our 8 principles.
Yep.
Okay, love it. And then any preference on where in the list it should go?
Sounds like top.
The top?
Yeah, so we don't give excuses to people to say, oh, it's not a priority.
On our list. I was thinking we would put it...
Easy updates at the bottom.
Well, not the very bottom. I was thinking like maybe after performance.
Basically.
But I don't have super strong feelings. I think the top one should be easier updates because that's what brought us all here. But beyond that, I also kind of like simplicity and focus. I like them all. I mean, that's why they're there, right? So they're all important.
Just put them in alphabetic order. So if people say, why do you have it there? It's alphabetical.
Okay. Well,
I would say between extensibility and performance.
Okay.
Or either that or between focus and extensibility.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So sort of slot 4, slot 5.
Yeah.
Any objections to 4?
That's after focus.
Yes, right after focus.
Yeah, I like that because easy, simple, focus. Those are like concepts, you know, like just generally. And then like extensibility, security, and performance are like implementation things, right? They kind of group together.
Okay, I like it. And then we have sort of a 1 or 2 sentence explanation right now about each principle. What do we want to say about security? And is this worth talking about now, or should we just start writing some drafts in an issue and review there? Okay, let's create an issue on backdropcms.org, and we can figure it out. Okay, that was exciting. Thank you, PMC. Website. We talked a little bit about the website in the design and usability meeting in the last hour, but when we talked about the demo button, we said it wasn't working, and we have news, apparently. Nate fixed the demo button in the last hour, so we're going to talk about it again. Apparently the button is fixed now, which is great, and we can then move forward about replacing the Pantheon button that's currently on the homepage with the demo button. But as Joseph pointed out in the last meeting, that button, the Pantheon button, is the only way to currently install Backdrop on Pantheon. So we need to make sure we get the secondary page up at the same time as we remove the button. We can't remove the button right away. So think we have a secondary page. It's a view somewhere. I'm not sure. I think its access isn't turned on, or I don't know, but all the content should be there. And we just need to kind of do a once over it for design, because it's been a long time since I even looked at its design, make sure it's okay, and then push the button. So it should be fairly straightforward. Theory.
Okay. Do we already have an issue for replacing the Pantheon?
Yes. It's I don't forget the number, but there's an issue in the .com. Oh wait, it's right here. So issue number 476, add a homepage button, should have related issues linked from it. They might not be all nice and orderly at the top. Okay, so that's it for peripheral stuff this week. That rolls into Backdrop CMS progress report. Nate, do you want to talk about, I don't have an issue on here for 113.1, but we should probably talk about that section.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to cover. So let me see if we need to pull up that issue. We had an issue earlier today, actually filed a couple of days ago, that we had a problem with the changes to the entity API, that we added a consistent way of working with entities for access control. And as part of that change, we had we made the entity type method into a static method instead of just a normal one. And that caused an API break that affected a bunch of contrib. And so the reason that was added was for convenience, basically, that it would be nice if you could just say node : entity type and then get back the entity type of that thing without having to create a new instance. But it wasn't actually required as part of that overall API addition to add access control. So I saw there were a bunch of different issues open saying, oh, we have to update our modules to comply with core. But instead of doing that, we've gone through and kind of posted to all those contrib modules saying, no, we'll fix core. Don't change anything. And so we're just going to remove the static declaration and basically undo the API change because that had a lot larger impact than we had expected. So because that's a really big problem, let's see, the issue number on this is 3809. And that's already been merged and pushed into the 113.x branch. And I think because this is such a big thing and we don't want contrib to start updating and then break when we do the reverting, we really have to get this out as soon as possible. So I was
today.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe after this meeting,
okay,
if that would be okay. There's only 5 issues so far that have been merged into the 113 branch, so
that's fine.
This is going to be really trivial, but this is important, so we should get it out there quickly.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, that's kind of it for the 113 update. Then looks like in the agenda we also had removed any other bug fixes that we might want to prioritize, but I really think, that's the only one that I know of that has been super critical. And are there any other issues that you guys know of that are in the prioritized list for 113, the branch as a whole?
Not critical ones, but interesting ones, yes. Critical ones.
Cool. Yeah, I went through the RTBC list, and that's what those 5 issues are. I know that there's also another 40 issues or something like that in the 113.1 list, but they'll probably just get bumped to 113.2.
Yep.
We still haven't actually deployed to some of our upstream locations like Pantheon. Our policy is usually waiting 2 weeks to make sure we get out any kinks. This definitely qualifies as kink. But I think that we'll probably still strive to make another release at the 2-week mark. So we'll probably still make one in early June. This is just really important, so we need to get it out, and then any other things we run across.
The 2-week mark is on next Wednesday.
What's that?
The 2-week mark is next Wednesday.
Correct.
Okay.
So are we saying that we're going to have a 113.2 next Wednesday, or because we're going to have the one today, maybe we'll extend it to 2 weeks from now?
I don't know.
Well, let's see if there are any other kinks that appear.
Okay.
And if there is another kink, we
Makes
can do another release soon. And if everything is going smooth sailing, then I would say, maybe on Wednesday, if nothing has come up, we push to Pantheon and at the 2-week mark.
Yeah, I'm a little bit fuzzy with the 2-week concept because when I was saying early June, sometimes 2 weeks after the 15th is into the next month, but sometimes
not in May.
Not in May, and actually it's not in January either.
Only February, I think.
It is September. Oh yeah, I guess it never applies then. Actually,
Wishful thinking.
Chosen. Well, never mind. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the immediate plan: make 113.1, make 113.2 in the next
when needed,
but within the next 2 weeks for sure.
Okay.
And great. I think that's all that we have to talk about for the bug fixes. Otherwise, I know that we've updated like backdropcms.org to the latest version, right, Jen?
Yeah.
And anybody else updated their sites? Have any other?
I updated 3 sites. That's how I discovered all of the kinks. And back to on the forums updated. That found a kink too, and the API site I think it's updated.
Great. Okay, well, let's talk about 114. Jen, I requested at the beginning of the meeting, like last week and the week before, we've been working out how to prioritize features for 114 and actually for all kind of versions going forward. Could you go over that again?
Sure. So I also posted a link to this page in the agenda. I'll post it again in the Gitter chat and in the meeting sidebar. But I wrote up a documentation page after our last meeting since it sounded like we finally figured out a sensible way to manage milestones. I wanted to write it down so that everybody who was coming to work in the issue queue could figure it out. So I put a section for bug fix milestones. That's just sort of what we have been doing, where basically you can't have anything in the bug fix milestone unless it has a pull request, unless it has been deemed by a core committer to be a super high priority issue. And those are the like bug something like this if we didn't have a fix for it, but we knew it was important, we could have made it in there. So the required criteria are: it must have first been tagged with the milestone candidate by one person. It must have had the milestone candidate added by a second person. It must have a recent pull request in a near ready state. So that would mean something that got a pull request like 2 years ago and doesn't apply anymore could be bumped. And it must be suitable for a bug fix release. So something that's not a new feature. And I tried to outline that saying it's either going to be tagged with the label bug report, type task, or have user experience tag in the title. Or a core committer must have said, yes, this is appropriate for a bug fix release. So we have some things that are like, we have one issue right now. I think that, converting comments to views, like could maybe be a bug fix, but I think it might be better as a minor release and a new feature issue. So there's stuff like that where I think we need to get core committer sign off on whether that's allowed. And then minor releases, which is the thing that's new here, is how do we figure out what goes into our next milestone? So the requirements there are that it has to be tagged with the milestone candidate minor label. It must have an advocate, and that doesn't have to be a person who's going to work on the issue, but it is a person who's going to push the issue forward. And then we also explained what an advocate is in detail on this page, where we said, the advocate would ideally be able to attend most of our weekly meetings to report on the status of the issue. If that's not possible, then you can put an update or summary of the issue into the issue queue, and that way, or into the top post in the issue in the queue. And that way someone in the meeting can understand the progress of that issue and report it to the rest of the So basically, we have someone who's going to try and make sure that those things make their milestone. Then there's one exception to minor release milestones, and that's if you have an issue that's a feature request that has a pull request that's ready to be committed, we can add that milestone to that issue. So in the same way that if you have a bug fix with a pull request, it can get added to the bug fix release. If you have a feature request with an RTBC pull request, that can get added to the minor release. So that way, if you are working on something that hasn't been a priority, but you get it all the way to done, we're not going to prevent that from going in. Like, that's good work. It's ready. But we do want to have a list that'll help us prioritize what's left.
There's a note in here saying, I think that makes sense for, like, RTBC state means that it can be moved into the next milestone, like, right away.
Yep.
But there's a comment in here saying that the advocate for this issue cannot also be the advocate for another open issue in this milestone, unless, of course, the other issue has a pull request in a near ready state.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if you were an advocate, or is this documentation page saying if you were an advocate and you got something to RTBC, then at that point you could go and advocate another issue?
Right. So we don't want to make sure that you only commit one thing in 3 months. Like, if you're super motivated to work on like 8 things at a time, or 8 things in a cycle, that's fine. But we don't want you to have 8 things at a time. We want to have them in succession. But there might be a period of time where your pull request is marked RTBC and it's not getting reviewed and it's not getting merged. And we don't want you sitting around doing nothing. So at that point, you can adopt another one. And even if your RTBC issue gets bumped back to like needs work, that doesn't mean you have to remove your other issue from the milestone. You can go back and forth between the two of them, but one of them has to be close enough that you're not confused about which one to work on.
Okay. Yeah, maybe this.
Trying to make it so that
it did make sense when I read it, but I was like, seems I don't know. Maybe there's one other way to reword
we
it.
can work on the wording.
Yeah.
But I don't want to prevent Gregory from doing more than one thing in 4 months. If we want to do 20 things,
Yeah.
he should be allowed to do 20 things.
Everything there, the exceptions are for me. Yeah. So the words that you just said now make it more understandable than what it's already written. Yes. So plain language that we don't want to stop you if you want to work on other things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
And yeah, the notes on the definition of the issue advocate were like the last one was the initial version of it said that you had to sort of like attend the meetings, and that was very limiting because some people don't have the time, they're on a different time zone. That's why we adapted it to sort of like, if you cannot make it, then here's alternatives. The point is that try to get an update to someone that can get it during the meetings. Yep.
Yeah. I think that's fair too. So following our new rules, I have adopted one issue for 114, and that is core fieldable file entity bundles. And that's because right now I feel like Backdrop's priority should be on feature compatibility with Drupal, in particular Drupal 7, so the people who are upgrading from 7 will have an easy all the way there. And I think this issue will help bridge that gap. So that's why I want to help. I noticed
then sorry, you froze there for a moment. Can you repeat the last like 30 seconds?
I want to work on fieldable file entity bundles because they're not the same in Backdrop Core as they were in Drupal 7 Contrib, and I think that working on that will get that difference resolved. I also feel like it's pretty close because Doc Wilmot did a ton of amazing work on it, and what prevented it from going in the last time it was almost ready was usability stuff, and so that's why I'm motivated to take it over, is because I've always felt that file entities in Drupal 7 Contrib was kind of a usability nightmare, and I would love to kind of resolve that problem or improve it slightly, if that's all I can do, so that we can get it into Backdrop. Gregory, it looks like you've adopted trusted host patterns, which is a security improvement that Drupal 8 has. This goes nicely with our new principle.
Security, yeah. and we decided that we should at some point have a dedicated security section, like maybe configuration security or something like that, in the product itself. So this is a start. This is a good candidate. So where this issue is left at, it's the implementation in Backdrop is a bit more less intruding, I should say. So it doesn't prevent you from installing Backdrop, and it's not an error. It's rather a warning. And the goal is to have it be configurable via the user interface and via the settings PHP. Yeah. So where that's at is that it was waiting for code review and testing.
So it's pretty close.
Yeah. So
You can almost have another issue.
yeah. So long as I find someone to RTBC it.
And then the other one I left here, Nate, digital signatures on project packages, that's assigned to you currently, I think, because it's still like 90% reviewed, but not all the way. And so I put you down as an advocate for that one, but Jay Franklin could be the advocate for it if he wanted. So I don't know, but you're both working on that one. So we'll just leave it there and let you guys fight over who gets to own it.
Huh, cool. So this is interesting. So that means that the 3 issues that we've got listed in the 114 minor version right now, at least that we've got in this agenda, one person present is the advocate for each one of them. So does that mean that we're going to start having the advocate be present to talk about their issue in the meetings?
We did cover this twice already.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
yes, if they can, that would be great. If they can't, they just have to put an issue summary on the issue in the queue so that we can, when we make the agenda, we can check on it and see how it's doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, should I go ahead and start on signatures on packages?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So issue 1992 is our digital signatures on packages that John Franklin has been leading the charge on. We're working through kind of the necessary infrastructure to support it currently. We did make an update to project module a couple of weeks back that makes it so that it can now be, the XML feeds can be altered by other modules. And that makes it so that the code sign extension to project module can now start inserting its information into the update XML feeds. And so, oh, sorry, that I'm getting ahead of myself. That change isn't yet in. It's RTBC. It's issue number 25 in the project module queue. And so once that is in place, then we can continue proceeding, putting CodeSign or the functionality necessary for CodeSign into project module and getting the signatures in the XML feeds. And then from there, we'll flip back to core and start actually having the XML feeds start being respected by core. So that's where we are on that. There hasn't been any like really crazy changes recently. We've had other things going on. So, but I'm hoping to get back to that shortly. That's it for me on 1992.
So that's it, I think, for all 114 issues that we know about. But there are a bunch of people who do a bunch of great work on core stuff who may be not aware of this new policy or process yet.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage anyone who wants to work on something and has something they think is a priority to continue to bring it up in Gitter, in the issue queue, however, and we'll try and spread this information as much as we can.
Other than the tasks that are targeted for the 114, I would also like to push for the views crossports.
Yeah.
Which can happen in bug releases, not 114, but even if not altogether, maybe just one sort of like batch, one issue at a time, which has multiple pull requests.
Yeah, I think I don't think it was last week, but I think I spent some time. I wanted to make a similar meta. You know how we have meta for views that links to all of the issues that have all of the sub ones. I also wanted to make a similar meta for all of the other modules because we have a page that lists them all, but not all of them are linked. And then I wanted to go through and make those lists of commits because I know that takes a lot of crazy Git magic in order to get that to happen. And I just figured out how to do that for views, and I would love to do it for other things too. Like you have to start by going back to the point in time that the project was committed to Backdrop Core, look at the last commit on that separate project from that particular point in time, and then that's the point forward that you pull all the commits from, and that doesn't always map to a release in Drupal world. So like we merged in the dev branch of views, right? So it was a little hard to figure out exactly where that commit came from. So if I can help with that on any of the other issues, let me know, or any of the modules. I think views should definitely be our priority because there's been a lot going on in views lately, and there's been not a lot going on in a lot of those other Drupal 7 contrib projects. But I'm definitely happy to help set up those metas if that makes it easier for other people to do the cross-porting.
Yeah. I think that when it came to cross-porting from Drupal, I think it was Jeff that he was adding the script required at the bottom of each issue so that people can do that. Or you?
Yeah. The git command.
So one problem that I noticed is that some of the links do not work because it wasn't pointing to the right domain or something, but it's an easy search and replace, so I've been fixing those.
Okay.
But I can't remember if it was the links to the commits or the links to the respective issue.
It was probably the commits because we wrote that before Git changed to GitLab.
GitLab, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how to sort of like move these issues forward, but views is sort of like more critical, dare I say, because it's an integral bit of Backdrop Core now, and we use it in a lot of places.
Oh, also, Nate, for today's release, speaking of views being integral, we committed something recently that broke filters, like a filter operator. And in the Drupal issue queue, they had a fix that didn't actually fix the problem, but they had an earlier commit that did. And I was recommending that we commit the fix that actually fixes the problem. And then when Drupal 7 lands on a solution that fixes it in a way that they like better, we can merge that in. But right now with our core views broken, it is presenting some issues on sites that were working before. I think it was in 1.12 where we broke it. But yeah. It would be good to revisit that issue, and I can try and find it. I think it's marked RTBC, so hopefully it's easy for you to find. But
I don't think there are any more RTBC issues.
Okay. Well, I can find that issue. I'll send you a link if I can.
And the objective being that we want to fix it today.
Yeah, if we're going to do a release, it would be great to not do it. To include a fix for views in that release.
Okay, well, let's take a look.
Okay. All right. General discussion, open Q&A. Nice and quiet. Justin's here. Should we talk about moving backdropcms.org onto a new server?
Sorry, Joseph. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah. You want to do that?
So right now, the only urgency is that our sanitize service is on the new server, and the site is trying to sanitize is on the old server. So it's not helpful if people are trying to get sanitized databases and that we don't have that hooked up. So I think I was like, well, we could move sanitize back, but really I'd much rather move backdropcms.org forward. So the only problem, Justin, is that Nate and I are going to be out of town until Monday. I mean, it's a long weekend. I'm not sure I want to ask anyone to work this weekend anyway, but maybe we can schedule a day next week to do a cutover.
Yep. Is backdropcms.org the only site left?
I think so.
The forum is over, the API site is over.
Localize is over.
The localized site is over. There might be one of those, we've had a couple of weird ones.
I don't think we set up CiviCRM yet, but Civi or crm.backjumpcms.org is going to be on the new server too.
Let's see. API, backdropcms.org, the forum, localize, and then there's one called DCU for.
There's the Drupal
No.
Curve updates. Yeah, so nobody ever used that one, although it was a really good idea. But now Gregory wants to use it again. So initially I was like, no one's using it. We don't need it. And Gregory's like, wait, I want to use it.
So I think Cranen was the one that suggested that we can use GitHub APIs to do some automation and that. And we sort of like said, okay, let's put the DCU on the side. But the GitHub automation never happened. So maybe fall back to the
So the point
manual.
of this website is that for every contrib module that we put in Backdrop Core, we can have it running on a Drupal 7 site. And then anytime there's an update to the module, the Drupal 7 site will email someone and go, hey, there's a new update out for links. And that'll help us know when we need to create a meta to include all of the cross-ports from those contrib modules.
Yeah, and ideally not mail one single person, but a team of people that would work on the cross ports.
So, I don't know. It's definitely, I think we can set it up on the new server and decide if we need to use it or not, but there's nothing of value in the old site. Like, I don't think
I had migrated it over.
it's there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it can be tested. But we'll, to make it live, we'll do the database update.
I don't think anyone's logged in. I don't think since you moved it. So
It would make it easier if I had access to just push changes there and manage it, because it's not user facing. Like we can even get it behind a shield
so we can
or something.
Like we should password protect it, give you access, and then add you to the GitHub repo so you can manage it.
Because now I have to always like poke you and say, can
Yeah.
you please merge this one, so I can manage that. So if I can have merge access to the repo, then it would make life easier.
Yes, I also recently set up some better group handling on GitHub for our contrib projects. So there's a group for every site. So if you want commit access to an individual site, you can do that. But there's also a web team that has access to all of the sites. So I think, Gregory, you might already be on the web team, but I'll check and make sure that if not, you have at least commit access to that one site.
Yeah, that would help.
So that way I don't have to add someone to 8 properties when they ask for permission. I'll just be like, here's a web team.
Yeah, and the reason why I think, so I can't remember the last time that was updated. So it might be even an insecure version of Drupal. And I don't want to compromise the rest of the sites. That's why maybe password protected, like under a shield or something.
Okay.
So do we want to schedule a cutover date for, what do you think? For backdrop series?
Yeah. How does Wednesday sound, the 29th?
Wednesday, 29. Yeah, looks good to me.
Great. Do you have a time, Justin? We're at least I'm open pretty much all evening.
Yeah, I'm available after 9. I guess.
Okay.
Our time, your time.
My time, yeah. So, yeah. A little
Which is Mountain time, right?
So 7 here.
Okay. I'm going to send you an invite.
Okay. No, not. It's 8 there, right? It's just an hour difference, I think,
Yep, that's right.
from you guys.
Sorry, I'm not sure if
New
you
York or
would
something.
die by your calendar, but I do. So, great. Great. Save. Sorry, Jen, I sent you an invite outside of your working hours.
That's fine. I didn't know they had working hours. Actually, I forgot.
Google gave me an alert saying, this is outside this person's working hours. Are you sure you want to schedule a meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
So I'll start on release, a release meta for 113.1.
Yep.
And Gregory, you're around. I'll assign you things.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it would be a great idea to get an announcement out, because we didn't for the 113.
Oh, well, so we need to write a blog post, and then we need to send the blog post to the marketing team so they can put it in the newsletter.
Okay.
But if anyone has any time to work on a blog post between now and 2 weeks from now when we do the second release and push to Pantheon, that would be good. But I don't want to send the newsletter before we push to Pantheon because they can't use it.
Okay, so we sort of like have some time still until, so
Or
usually
are we going to push 113.1 to Pantheon? I forgot what we decided.
No, we're going to wait.
Okay.
We always do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we always wait until the first bug fix release, but that's now. So I don't know. Because this is early if it was different. Okay. Sounds good. See you guys.
Wait, Joseph had something to say before we
start
talking about hosting.
Right.
Yeah. So I took a look at ways to respond to other modules doing a database update, and I wasn't able to find anything.
You mean for a theme?
Well, we would have, so themes don't really have that kind of functionality. So we would have to put it in the module.
I think the themes can have updates, but I don't think ours definitely don't.
Yeah, I've not ever seen a theme that ran an update hook.
But I saw documentation somewhere that said most themes don't have updates. But that makes me think that someone once tried this. Not that it was definitely supported. But anyway, carry on. Let's pretend it doesn't. It's not possible.
So I wasn't able to find a hook that allowed me to respond to some other module doing a database update.
Right. But there should be a function within the theme that you can call that'll generate the new files, right?
No, mostly. All of
just
that
the submit
functionality.
handler?
Yeah, it's the submit handler.
So probably what we then need to do is abstract that out into a separate function that can be called, and then the submit handler should call it, and so should whatever it is so that we can call it from an update hook anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Hopefully that can all go in together. And then, Nate, you weren't around in the design meeting, but the problem space we're facing right now is that if we made a change to the way the theme colors work, we might want to regenerate all of the color modularized versions of that theme, which generates CSS files. And right now, the only way those files are regenerated is by hitting save on the theme settings form. And so we wanted to be able to do it in an update hook. So we were thinking about adding it to something like system module. But your gut on that too would be that's where we should put it, or?
Yeah, I would think so. Maybe color module, since it's the one doing the regeneration. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, my idea was more that we're gonna have to do this anytime we touch the theme. And so if we could just have like an automated thing that just regenerates it without needing an update hook, then that would be better, because then that would allow like any theme in the future.
Well, we probably won't touch a theme in a not update. Right? Like if we're going to be making changes, that's going to be a time when people will probably run the update anyway.
Right.
So
yeah, but it's like, we should come up with a way where we don't have to write a new update hook in a module.
But that's what they're for. Can you explain the downside to that?
So I work on a website that has several hundred update hooks. And I don't know, it gets unwieldy.
But they only run once.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then you have the code there.
Yeah, I could see this being a problem for contrib modules that have color integration, that if they change their color options, they don't have the ability to have core run an update hook for them like we do.
No, it's a contrib module. It can add an update hook and
No,
call
it's a contrib
generate.
theme. A contrib theme.
Oh, you said module.
Yeah.
So the bigger problem here is that themes need a way to run updates. Regardless of what they're doing. This smaller version of like just regenerate color files could maybe be handled by some kind of a theme setting that you could define that would trigger an update, and color module could be listening for that trigger.
Right. Well, that was my original question is I can't find that trigger.
Right. We might have to make one.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
I
you
don't
say
know what that would look like.
yeah, when you
It's
say
the kind of thing that would have to also only have to be run once, like exactly like an update hook. So I don't know if that's like a config change that then gets changed back. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I really don't like things that are like, listening all the time. Like, did something change? Yes, then do something invisibly, like on the first time the page is loaded. Like, I feel like any kind of update, like if you update a module or a theme, like the process to actually apply that update, should be it should be explicit. So something like updating a theme actually seems like, if you've added new color options, having the release note say save your color form seems kind of okay, but I don't know.
We could. So what about the state system?
Yeah, this. Well, I mean, when does the regeneration action occur? That's kind of the question, I think. Like we can store it in state, yeah, but what does the check against state and says, okay, this
Color
is
module.
Color module when?
So the color module could define something like regenerate new themes files, true, false, right? And you could, in your theme, be like, okay, it's time to do it, set to true. And then color module would be like, oh, okay, is it set to true, regenerate files? I mean, that's the thing you don't like, I think, because it would need a moment to do that check.
And that regenerate equals
Yeah,
true.
clear.
When would that happen? Like
Cache clear.
Yeah. On cache clear? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe regenerating the CSS file isn't a terribly expensive thing, but it is kind of expensive, and it's like a thing that seems pretty unlikely to change for most cache clears. Like, it's not really a cache; it's literally like a CSS of your site.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't know. Because it does like have a folder where it just generates new copies of all your files and stores them in this folder every time you save your settings.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Have you messed with it a lot? Like, look, the preview thing regenerates all the files on the fly every time you refresh it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't. I was actually surprised by how quick it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Just if you guys are curious, Drupal 8 has theme update hooks.
Does Drupal 7?
I'm checking. You'd think I would know this. Nothing about it in the hook update documentation. There we go.
I think that this is kind of similar to the thing where there's an issue to put color palettes in config, but there's a problem with getting them into config in the first place because themes can't have config files at the moment. So this seems like a kind of a related thing.
Yeah. So if we table this, I think we're kind of running long and not really relevant for most visitors or most viewers.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'd like to get started on the 113.1 release. So at the very least, could we just wrap up and say goodbye to everybody out there? Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you guys on the internet.
Thanks for coming, everyone.